That's not a podcast.
This is a podcast. Hello everyone, we're back once again with the Aussie Canuck podcast. Sorry for the delay on this one, but both of us are getting really busy now, so we're going to try and get these out month by month. But yeah, we're going to be here talking about Housos, and we're going to talk about both seasons, and we're going to talk about the movie as well. We are probably going to do a commentary on the movie sometime in the future when we both have time. Yeah, so I first want to mention I was at Central Station recently, and I was on my way out. I was going for an audition. I might as well mention what it was for now. I was off auditioning for Beauty and the Geek. I did not get on, by the way. Yeah, and zooming right past me in his wheelchair was one of the guys from the show. And if you watch the show, you know who it is. Yeah, so, and it shocked me. I was like, whoa, guess he is sort of like the character he is in the show. He zoomed right past me. But, so that was like sort of a, whoa, flash celebrity experience.
So, long story short, you're going to be in season 3.
Yeah. But yeah, so that happened. And of course I'm here with Alex, the superhero enthusiast, the Canuck part of the Aussie Canuck podcast.
Hey, everybody.
Yeah, I sort of forgot to introduce you there. Silly me.
That's okay. I'm Canadian, so I'm polite, and I didn't want to interrupt you.
Yeah, well, I sort of wanted to get that out of the way. But, Alex, you probably, I asked you to check this out a long time ago because I really wanted to talk about it. So what did you think when you first watched that first episode of Housos and was sort of coming across it?
Well, you had mentioned to me that this was essentially Australian Trailer Park Boys, and if people have listened to, I guess it's our second episode, they'll know I fucking love Trailer Park Boys. I think that's such a genius show. And so I was really curious to see kind of this Australian version, and obviously it's a very, very loose kind of adaptation. It's just sort of roughly inspired, and I like how it is its own thing, definitely. Watching the first episode, I was initially not so hot on it. It seemed very in your face and over the top, and Trailer Park Boys, I guess to contrast the two shows, and we're probably going to be doing a lot of that this episode, it's a much more subtle show, I feel like, and I think that just shows the differences between the two styles of humor in our two different countries, which is really interesting. And then there got to a scene where they were all in the one room, and Frankie's talking to his girlfriend about like how he wishes that he had a disability, but a disability that would still allow him to work out because he's got these big muscles. And I was like, okay, this has hooked me a little bit. That was really funny. And kind of as it went along, I liked it a little bit more. I don't know if it was just a case of I had to adjust to it because I really didn't know what to expect going in. Like I didn't expect it to be exactly like Trailer Park Boys, just with Australian accents, but I didn't really know what I was getting into, and maybe it just sort of shocked me a little bit. Um, by the time I got to the second episode, I thought, yeah, this is better. And then third episode, and this is the one that you told me. You're like, once you see Melbourne, you'll probably really like this show. Melbourne is one of the funniest things I've seen in a really, really long time. It is pretty freaking genius. I've rewatched the show twice, I think now, and that's an episode itself that I've probably rewatched like 5 or 6 times because I just think it's so funny and it doesn't get old.
No, it doesn't. And it has a great piece of advice in it, which is don't spend 4 hours getting clean if you're looking to get dirty.
Yep.
I don't know if that's the exact line, but essentially that's it. But yeah.
What was your introduction to the show though, as an Australian?
I missed the first episode, but I came across the episode Pregnant, which I think I must have missed like the intro, and that was probably about it. But I was watching it, and I was laughing so hard during it. And then I was like, oh, so when's the next episode? And that was Melbourne, and of course, you know, I loved that one.
How can you not?
Yeah. So then I was like hooked, and eventually I bought the series on DVD, and so I was able to see Disability, which I think is a genius too, because it's just
It kind of sets up what the whole show is and like who these people are. So it's a good introduction, I think.
Yeah. All right, so Disability. I'll just run down what Disability is about. But Disability is about them trying to get on the disability pension, and it sort of introduces the philosophy that Frankie has either really good luck or really bad luck. So he wins a trifecta and gets like a whole bunch of money and is able to buy a second-hand car, and he does what he normally does, spray paints it, makes it look all gangsterly, and makes it look all awesome. And of course, pretty soon he gets into trouble and hurts his leg. And yeah, I just want to get to this part too, so I can mention this joke. While he's at the hospital, right, the Sunnyvale Assassins show up, and Frankie asks, "Did you guys get run right through a razor blade factory? Because they got all these little itty bitty cuts all over their face." Turns out they did a drive-by because they were going to drive by the fire station because Frankie had stolen a fire engine and almost run over their mother. But they forgot to wind down the window while doing the drive-by. But yeah, I think that's one of the funniest jokes ever. You're forgetting the one.
Yeah, those guys are so incompetent.
Yeah.
But it's hilarious.
Yeah.
And obviously there's like the really hairy one who's even more funny.
Yeah. I'll just mention the live show. I don't think you've had a chance to see that, but the live show is pretty interesting. If you ever find a thing on that, you should check that out. But that has most of the main cast there. Of course, that guy's there, and he sort of is like one of the very few Sunnyvale Assassins that is actually at the show. But yeah, that's essentially it. Does sort of introduce you to every character throughout that. Kevin's doesn't really ever get much to do, so he doesn't sort of have like an episode that's just focused on him, but usually it's Daz is doing something stupid. Because he's putting fly spray up his nose. Trying to get, he says, something's got to get fucked up somewhere if I keep doing this. And of course, his girlfriend, Shaz, is always breaking a bottle over his head. Or something, but yeah. That's sort of sets up the dynamic of the show. So what do you think of Pregnant? Because yeah.
There were a lot of things that I liked about it. I felt to some extent at times the whole she's pregnant and he's trying to get her to the hospital thing just went on a little bit too long. Like, I think that could have been like half the episode rather than the whole episode. But there are a lot of hilarious bits in there where my favorite one, and the thing that I love about the show is, like, in a weird way, it gives me, as a non-Australian, this window into Australian culture. And Dazza is obsessed with Ned Kelly. And they're at the point where they run into some police, and the police are going to help them, and he refuses to accept help from the police because he has a vision from Ned Kelly that says, like, that you can't accept help from the cops, from the authorities. That's un-Australian. And, like, I know, weirdly, I feel like I learned something about Australian culture just from watching the show, and that definitely there is a big contrast there between you guys and between us, in that the whole perception here, the cultural narrative, is that Canadians are kind of give deference to authority, whereas you guys are very much into, like, the whole resistance towards authority thing. And that's the whole thing within the show, with just Frankie and him saying, like, don't use your authority on me. The movie is called Housos versus Authority. So it's a big part, I guess, of your culture, if I'm reading that right.
Yeah, it kind of is. And that the whole Ned Kelly thing can be pretty polarizing between certain aspects of the Australian society. I haven't got too much to say about Pregnant, except that there is just some funny jokes in there that tickled me the right way and got me into the show. So then we come to Melbourne, which is
like I said, one of the funniest things ever.
Yeah, it pretty much focuses just on Frankie traveling to Melbourne to get away from everything, because he is so ticked off that his de facto Kylie is left him for someone else that works at McDonald's. Which I think is funny, but yeah. So yeah. Well,
there's a big contest in the beginning with the bikies.
Yeah.
And you know, Frankie ends up in this weird parking lot kind of strongman test, winning one of their choppers, and so that's how he gets the bike to go to Melbourne.
And yeah, yeah, that sort of sets everything up. And of course, if Frankie's not with Kylie, he's with Crystal.
Yeah,
and she, yeah. But yeah, it's
I love the part where he just, like, goes nuts and just he smashes somebody up, and then he just decides to go around smashing people just because he's in that headspace.
Yeah. And smashing them how? He slaps them across the face with a thong. Now, in Australia, a thong is something you wear on your feet. In America, you might call it a flip-flop.
Yeah, we call it a flip-flop here as well.
Yeah. But I really don't want to give too much more away about Melbourne, because I think that is the best episode of the series. So,
well, it's interesting too how in that, like, we see there are a couple of characters, or at least one, that we see make a comeback later there's like that sex addict woman that he meets down there. She shows up in, I think, like season 2 in Rehab.
Oh, yeah.
When Daza has to go. So that was kind of interesting how they sow these little seeds there.
Then we have Green Day, and we're not talking about the band. This is another one of those standalone ones where they set something up that the mayor sort of is setting up this green scheme and has got to sets it up that she's getting one of her houses done all in a green way. And Daza gets carted off to jail and for something. Trying to steal a car. Yeah, and yeah. In order to get the bail money, they have to work, which is against every aspect of Housos culture.
Yeah.
So, and Kevin and his girlfriend end up having sex on the bed. But yeah, well, bunch of crazy stuff happens. So, what do you think of that one?
I thought it was kind of interesting. That's the one where Daza's cousin, who's also called Daza, shows up again, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought so. Because that was so weird that what happened to him at the end. It felt like really dark all of a sudden. And I won't spoil what it is, but it's just like, whoa, this show goes to some really, really dark places.
Yeah, because this is the beginning of the Dazzler's in jail arc, which ends with the two-parter in Thailand, which is not bad. It's just not very good. Really weird.
I get why you feel that way, but I liked it. I felt like they did go for some really easy jokes and kind of like cultural and maybe even slightly, offensive ethnic humor at times in that episode. But then they would do something like the Predator gag, where they're on drugs and they're in the jungle and Frankie keeps thinking that he sees the Predator. And that cracked me up every time.
Yeah. That's probably the best part of the thing. And they all get kidnapped by some Thailand people, and I think this is the episode that ends with where they're gonna cut off Daz's legs, the new Daz, not the old Daz. Yeah, so that's really interesting. It's interesting. I think that's where a lot of the money for the series probably went, for the traveling and filming around in somewhere that looks like Thailand. I guess it could be, because there is some places in Australia
I think they did go to Thailand, but maybe you're right.
Yeah, they probably didn't, or did. I just like pitching a theory just in case I'm wrong. Then we after the two-parter, which is not too bad, just not great in my opinion, but you can tell between that. The Lebos are selling $300 dodgy Foxtel. I'm just reading the description for this. Then the guys have to get them the $300 Foxtel, the girls $300 Foxtel, because otherwise they won't get rooted.
Which that was something I learned too. Is I did not know that was that slang in Australian. I never heard that before.
Yeah, so you got a crash course in Aussie slang,
Yep.
and I didn't send you the Aussie slang dictionary, unlike I did for Captain Logan. But yeah, fairly basic. I don't really remember much about this except they, uh, isn't this the one where they get the 3D TV, but without the 3D glasses?
Yeah, yeah. That was a fun
Yeah,
one.
yeah. And yeah, so would so Foxtel is of course pay TV out here. I think at the time this was done, they were pretty much taken over everything by this
Okay.
time. So oh yeah, there was I think Optus is pretty much gone by this point. But yeah, also uh just quickly, what did you think of this one? Because I don't really remember that much about it.
Yeah, I remember enjoying it, but some of these ones are like they're not bad by any means, but they don't really stick out or stick in the mind the way
Mm,
some of them do.
okay. Uh, uh, Uncle Doug, Dez's Uncle Doug gets released. Oh, and this is the one where they need the jumping castle.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, and it yeah. should we even spoil that? Because that's just such a funny gag.
Yeah. We won't spoil it. Let's just say the jumping castle is not exactly a jumping castle.
Well, it is, but it's let's just say it's one that's not made for children.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't know that those existed,
I
but
don't know.
I feel now that I know that they do, I feel like I was incredibly naive. Because now that I think about it, of course those exist.
Yeah, this was pretty much just setting up for that, Uncle and there's a great bit where they steal it, and this is the one where they steal the ATM, and yeah. uh, but yeah, that one's pretty interesting. It's not that's pretty much sets up that one gag, I think, in some respects, but there's some cool stuff. It's just the goal is to get the jumping castle, so it's pretty simple.
Mm-hmm.
Then we go to Daz's birthday episode, which is just called Birthday. It's Daz's birthday, and they want to throw him a party. I it's been a while, so I don't really remember too much about this one, but I do know it sort of ends with the like a lot of the elements of the show being there, like the fire truck that's in like every other episode
Oh yeah.
is there. I think there's a bunch of booze there. The sort of like it's very much to set up Daz's birthday, which it ends in a pretty cool way.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they steal a council car. This is that one. Uh,
Yeah, because the mayor wants to take all those people and move them outside of Sunnyvale.
yeah.
I
Oh
guess
yeah.
in a sense, almost setting up like a trailer park for them.
Yeah. Yeah. That sounds about right. But yeah. So but for the longest time, that was pretty much the last we heard of the Housos on TV because uh, it it was about this time they started filming the aforementioned Housos versus Authority movie, and just that is such a good movie. It does have a bit of heart to it because we find it like we find out that the Shaz's dad has passed away, and that is because the real actor Ian to be died, and the movie was dedicated to him.
And
Which
he
was
was our
really,
narrator for the first season.
yeah, and he did a really good job. And was pretty much his own character in the show as well. So it was sad. I remember reading that he had passed away. It was just, I think it was just before shooting wrapped on the movie. Like, I think he'd been sick for quite a while. So, but there's a whole bunch of stuff going on. But it's Houses versus Authority is pretty much Shaz's movie. It sort of focuses on Shaz with her relationship with her mum and having to say goodbye to her. Because we find out she was abandoned, and that's why Dad was there. he was, of course, a problem gambler. Really interesting story. So, yeah, and she wants her ashes scattered at Ayers Rock, like probably one of the most Australian places in Australia. And how they get to Shaz's mum is a really interesting story as well. They have to do a favour for the bikies. And they mentioned Thailand in there, so there's quite a few links to the show.
Good continuity.
Yeah. One last thing though, before I get your thoughts on the movie, Alex, is we find out Kylie has also been killed because there was some problems with her on set as well. I don't want to go into what they are because I really don't know. Like, I've only heard her side of the story. Yeah, but
I thought you had told me that she had gotten pregnant, so couldn't film it.
Yeah, that's what she says, and well, she's got a kid to support that part of the thing. But I don't know why she was fired because of it. That's I don't believe that. I think maybe Paulie Bench, the writer and creator behind the show, probably looked back and was like, I'm feeling a bit creepy now because she's like literally is only 18 and yeah. So yeah, that was that could have been it as well. I'm just posing a theory there. So yeah. But yeah.
Yeah, this movie goes to some really dark places, and it's kind of a movie about death in some ways and how people deal with death, which is way deeper than I would have expected. I do have issues with the movie. My issues are not that it's bad. My issue is just, I don't know to what degree it works as a movie. It really does feel like they took a whole season of the show, or at least like half of the season of a show, and just made it one. Since it was a whole arc, I guess, they just made it like a movie instead of the show. And that's why I think at times it feels like, oh, this is going to wrap up soon, and then, no, it continues to go on for, more time.
Yeah, I think Paulie had sort of like, he's really great at writing TV, and yeah, to a degree, I agree that it does feel very much like the beginnings of season 2. So, and I think maybe he was probably writing season 2 and he came up with that story, and that was going to be like an arc at the beginning of the series, but obviously changed his mind, and because he did put a poll on the Facebook page to should we do a movie or should we do just do season 2, and he's a lot of people wanted a movie, so yeah. And I think having watched the first few episodes of Fat Pizza, Paul has got a thing for aliens because
yeah,
because one of the first episodes of Fat Pizza, his character in that gets kidnapped by aliens, and Frankie gets kidnapped by aliens in this one as well. But yeah, it's very interesting.
I thought it was a funny movie, definitely, and again, deals with a lot of stuff about Australian culture and just kind of the whole, I guess, sense of what it means to be Australian. Because there's like that big courtroom scene in the movie.
Yeah. A
That deals
courtroom
with a lot of
scene in a
stuff.
Housos movie. Can you believe that?
So I enjoyed it. I don't know, though I might have enjoyed it more if it had just been like, 5 or 6 episodes of a season. But
Mm,
like I can't complain too much because I did enjoy it.
okay. It'll be really interesting when we get around to doing a commentary on that, I think. Because I agree, it did still feel quite a bit like a few episodes back to back, but I'd say about 4. So we leave the movie, and my biggest concern with this was, because Kylie was one of my favorite characters, and I was like, I'm gonna miss Kylie. But then, I'd watched back season 1, and I was like, Frankie's is it gonna, how are they gonna deal with that? Going ahead, and they don't really ignore the movie. Like they don't really touch back on the movie really. It was just like a whole bunch of these episodes just feel like very much standalone episodes. There's no real arc going on here at all, really.
Which is kind of disappointing after the movie.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. I thought season 2 was okay, but I would say I liked it significantly less than the first season. Because my issue with season 2 is there were a lot of great standout moments for every character in the first season. And then in the second season, I guess because those were funny, that just becomes every character's shtick. So whenever you see Nessa, she's always talking about how she has the best ass in all of Sunnyvale. Shaz is constantly breaking bottles over Daz's head. Daz is always mooning people because he did that once or twice in the first season and it was funny. Frankie's always stealing fire trucks, it seems. So it just, I don't know, I feel like it degenerated a little bit in terms of quality. It just became the same thing that we were seeing over and over.
Yeah. That's why I'm probably only going to mention a couple episodes of this one. There is some good stuff. Dazza tries to join the bikie gang. That was interesting. There is a jailbreak episode, and there's one where Dazza gets high and manages to get a voucher for a free meal, I think it is, at the this fancy restaurant. It's just to celebrate Shaz's birthday. So, and those are like the first 3 in like reverse order episodes. So, it's all right. It's funny where Dazza ends up finding the voucher, I must say.
Yeah.
But we get the hints here also in the 4th episode that Fat Pizza and Housos are in the same universe. Now we did know Shift and Shift Couriers, which is a another previous series of Paul Phoenix. It was in the same universe because in the first episode they mentioned the Swift and Shift Couriers place at the beginning. So,
and I think we see a Swift and Shift truck at some point, or van maybe.
Yeah, I think so too. So that happens. But
I like that.
Yeah. So there's some direct continuity here. Paul, it turns out Paulie and from Fat Pizza and Frankie are also are cousins, which is really weird because they're the same actor.
Well, it explains why they look alike.
But yeah, so I've only watched like the first few episodes of Fat Pizza. It hasn't really got me yet. So I might have to wait a bit longer before it finally gets me. But this is what's going to set up the next movie, which is Housos versus Fat Pizza. Now, yeah, there was some. What do you think of this? Because you hadn't seen Fat Pizza, but I think I told you about it or something.
Yeah, I'm curious to see it. Obviously, I'm going to have to see Fat Pizza first, and I'm definitely curious about the show. Though I'm a little bit more, I guess, trepidatious now that, you said it's taking a little while to hook you. But I do like this show, so I'm definitely curious to see this guy's other stuff. And from the sounds of it, they use a lot of the same actors in all these shows, and that's kind of neat.
Yeah, well, you can tell that Houses is filmed on a very much shoestring budget.
Mm-hmm.
This is that is probably film like the first few episodes of Fat Pizza seems like it's filmed on a thread of a budget.
Oh.
Because a lot of the stuff seems to be taking place at the SBS studios.
Interesting.
And looks like very much a back room of a shop. So it doesn't really look that great early on. So
was Fat Pizza his first show, or was Swift and Shift his first?
Fat Pizza was first, and then Swift and Shift.
That makes sense then. That as he's been more successful, he's able to get a little bit more funding for his stuff.
Well, Fat Pizza went on for quite a while, and I think I'm not sure, but it seems like from what I remember, it seems like that sort of took off after the first season. So yeah, that's gonna be interesting. Just one or two more episodes I'll mention before we wrap up here, and we forgot to talk about the news at the beginning, so we'll talk about it at the end. They send Dazza to rehab, and he doesn't want to go.
Rehab was one of the funnier ones in the second season, definitely.
Yeah, and so that one you said you liked. So that one I did like. The cops episode was kind of interesting because they're all watching what looks like an episode of Cops together, and they all sort of show how stupid the police of Sunnyvale are.
Mm-hmm. I thought that was an interesting episode and just like a neat concept.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was quite good. Not much else happens. There's a Tokyo episode, and there's an episode at the end of the series, which is really nice. Shazza and Dazza end up try to get married, and a whole bunch of them actually end up getting married.
The social security benefits and stuff, for the dole money.
Yeah, which is quite interesting. One thing I must say though is it did seem like there was a bit more money for the second season, and that's the season they ironically won the Logie for. So, and for those of you who don't know what a Logie is, guys, and it's not something that comes out of your nose, it's an award in Australia that that TV shows gets kind of like I guess an Emmy would be the equivalent for it. So yeah, they won an award, and if you want some entertainment, look up Paulie's acceptance speech, because it's really like he obviously did not think that he was going to win that night. So yeah.
I'll definitely check it out.
All right. Yeah, it's really quite. If you know, if you, I guess if you're a fan of his, you probably know why he sort of gives that um speech at the show. Um, we didn't cover the news at the beginning, so have you got something up there, or can you get something up, Alex? Because we've got to do it. Because
Yeah, well, can I just say a couple final thoughts on Housos before
oh yeah,
we
sure.
kind of jump into that? I guess to contrast with Trailer Park Boys, and why, while I really do like Housos, I do think Trailer Park Boys is a better show, and not just because I'm Canadian. Um, I feel like in Trailer Park Boys they do a lot more to humanize the characters, and Housos is a lot more about, look at these weird people. And, I never felt like Trailer Park Boys ever stooped to the level of, people who are socioeconomically challenged, let's just say, like these types of people that these shows are about, are inherently funny. And I feel like to some degree, Housos maybe furthers, stereotypes that people might have towards Bogans. Um, Whereas I feel like to some extent Trailer Park Boys celebrates those people and says, yes, they are, as human as the rest of us. Because the theme of every episode of Trailer Park Boys, and we said this in our episode on it, is, the most important thing is your family and friends. And Housos doesn't have that kind of overarching theme. And I think that's kind of sad, and I wish that it had the same amount of heart that Trailer Park Boys had, or at least just had some type of overarching theme in general. Because they play with the idea of authority here and there, but I'd really like to see that explored a little bit more.
Me too. I think maybe in some ways, season two was rushed out to a degree because of the movie and how successful it was. I'm assuming because like
Mm-hmm.
they had like red carpets for it all over the place. So yeah,
Yeah,
but
I definitely got that impression, and I hope that season 3 is not rushed. Because it's a good show, it's a good concept. Um, I want to see more good stuff. I want to see more episodes like Melbourne.
yes, me too. But yeah, I haven't got much else to say except I do really love the show and I love the movie. The first season more than the second season, and I love the movie. But to unless there's anything else you got to say,
Nope,
we
we
can
can
move
move into
on.
news.
We can move into news. Sorry, we're doing this last. So we're gonna. Uh, well. Um. Do you want to go first, or should I go first?
Um, I can go first. Um,
Okay.
Actually, my bit of news is in reference to a previous episode of the Aussie Canuck podcast that we did, and that was the one on Corner Gas. And in the same vein, I guess, of Housos, there's going to be a Corner Gas movie. Um,
Oh.
they're kickstarting it. Seems to have been successful. I didn't look to see if they 100% fulfilled whatever their goal was, but I would be surprised if they didn't. I'm weirdly ambivalent about it, just because, like we talked about on our episode about it, the last 2 seasons of that show, especially, were not nearly as good as the show was earlier. It really kind of jumped the shark at a certain point. And I'm hoping because they've taken a break, they can come back to it and make something special like that show was in the beginning. Um, it's just comedy movies are hard, especially when they're comedy movies that are based off of a TV show, because you run into the problem of like, if it feels like it's a cohesive thing that was created to be a movie, then it weirdly kind of doesn't feel like the show. But then the flip side of that is, you have the same complaint that we had about Housos and that movie. Housos versus Authority, and that's like, oh, well, it just feels like they took a bunch of episodes and stuck them together. So it's kind of like you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't, kind of a lose-lose situation. But I'm hoping it'll be good. I'm really hoping it'll be good, and I'm hoping it'll recapture things. I also feel it's kind of sad, too, in a way, that the show was such a huge success, and I think I might have mentioned this on our Corner Gas episode, but kind of the team split up in a way, in that Brent Butt and Nancy Robertson went off and did a different show called Hiccups that was on the same network, and also on the same network, all of the other writers and then the guy who played Hank went and did a different show called Dan for Mayor, which was actually set in, well, it wasn't set in Kitchener-Waterloo. It was set in the fictional city of Wessex, Ontario, but it was filmed in Kitchener-Waterloo, and I lived there for a while. And they would go to places, and it's like, I've walked there. I have stepped in the same places that they have stepped. I know that corner, which is really cool. But both those shows only lasted 2 seasons. Unfortunately, they were canceled after season 2, which is really unfortunate because I liked them both a lot. Hiccups, which was the one that Brent Butt and Nancy Robertson did, took a little while to grow on me, but and just the interesting thing about that was to see that kind of that team split up, and then you see whose humor style is whose. And so, like, you can go back and you watch Corner Gas and be like, oh, that was definitely a Brent Butt joke, or okay, no, that was a Kevin White joke. You can sort of tell like that, which is neat, but I know it feels kind of sad to me just because it's like those shows, they went off to do something after the big successful show and it didn't work out, and now they're kind of, crawling back to the thing that made them successful in the first place. And I kind of feel like, Trailer Park Boys is doing that too, which I think you and I have talked about this before, how we found out recently there's going to be more seasons of that show. They keep putting out more despite the fact that they've tried to end it like 3 or 4 times at this point. So it's just like, it's kind of sad. Like, I like the thing, like I like Corner Gas, I like Trailer Park Boys. Part of me does want to see new stuff. Part of me worries that it's not going to be as good as the old stuff, and then part of me just feels kind of sad that these people weren't able to go on and be successful doing something else. It's like the old scenario of like the band that used to be popular and everybody at their concerts only wants them to play the old hits. They don't want to hear any of the new music.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm interested to see the movie at least. I gotta say that. I'm not interested. I'm curious. Where's this going? Well, I'm going to weirdly talk about some politics.
Clive, for you.
Clive Palmer has come out this morning, I think, or late last night, and said he's happy to scrap the carbon tax, but with some amendments added to it. And we're not entirely clear yet what those are, but he wants, just make sure I get this right here, some sort of climate policy. They one of the things he said was that one of the conditions will be that the savings from scrapping the carbon tax must be carried onto the consumer, and that's, I'm all for that, because electricity prices in Australia are like skyrocketed, and that's one of the reasons I'm happy that the carbon tax is gone. But obviously you don't know about this, Alex, but the carbon tax was the key thing that got the last government kicked out of office. Okay. That was the one issue. It was something that was completely mishandled. It was something, I think, that had to be established because the last government, like, no one exactly was able to, due to the rules of Australian government, no one was actually able to form a cohesive deal, because it was like 50-50, weirdly enough, with but there was some independence. They were able to establish government. Really weird thing. But yeah, it's really glad that the carbon tax is being scrapped, and yes, glad that people are standing up to Tony Abbott because he's such a dumbass. He's come out also and said that he wants to increase the retirement age to 65 just out of nowhere. He's trying to take away pensions from people. He's really sort of come out and like sort of the reasons why like my worst fears about the Liberal Party are that they come into power and then they want to scrap everyone's pensions. They want to force everyone out to work, even those who can't really afford to. Like they try and present it like the minority is sort of the majority. Like all these people are scamming the government, when it's a very small group in comparison to people that are wanting to. It's like, well, we'll present it like this: like we're sick and tired of these people scamming the government out of all their money, and it's like, dude.
Yeah, it's the old. There are all these welfare queen kind of people, and it's like, yeah, those people exist, but they don't even make up 1% of the people who are on social assistance.
Yeah, it's really weird. I think they watch Housos and think it's
yeah, I think it's a documentary.
Yeah. Which was ironically a weird thing that people thought it was going to be when it came out. But yeah, it's very much punishing the majority because of the minority sort of thing is really weird.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I guess that's it. Now I want to let everyone know Alex here is getting very busy, so I'm not going to promise anything or when the next podcast will be, but we're going to try and find some time to get together to talk about, I think Continuum's next, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Which I'm super excited about because I just saw the season 3 finale recently, and it was awesome.
Yeah, I've still got to make my way through season 2 and all of season 3. So there's that, and plus Alex here is getting very busy. So
the show will still be around. It'll probably just be a little bit more sporadic.
Yeah. So whenever we are able to catch up and do the thing, we will. So if it happens this way, if suddenly there's like 2 episodes in a month and then there's not one for a while, just know I'm going to try and get. We're going to try and get, like, when we find a time to get together, we will do our best to keep up to date in some respects. So, guys. So straight after that Continuum will be Tomorrow When the War Began, which hoping we can get together in August and talk about that because that's a great thing. CFG, there might be a few episodes as well of that show where it's just me and Steve. I'm happy to go out and find someone to step in when they can for Alex here. So, yeah.
Send your applications today.
Yeah. So hopefully I can track someone down to sort of step in to do that. So maybe there'll be some episodes that's just me and Steve. So, yeah. But anyway, we will leave it off there, guys. Thank you for listening. This was not one of our longer ones, but not one of our extended ones. So, thank you for listening. Sorry to end it on such a bummer. But we will be back to you as soon as we possibly can. Okay. Goodbye, everyone. Hooroo.